Hey, I think we already did this video before.
What are you talking about? We have not covered fantasy before.
Yeah, we did. Back in July. It was the first video in the series.
That video was how to write the worst allegory ever, not how to write the worst fantasy novel ever.
Wait, you mean there's more to the Christian fantasy genre than an allegory?
Hard to believe, isn't it?
I think you're pulling my leg.
Well, I'm not. Can we just get on with the actual show? Do you want to write the worst fantasy novel ever?
If so, you've come to the right place.
You need to be careful though, because there's already a lot of competition for this title.
Have you seen the Christian fantasy market today?
I have, and I've read it.
And written it. It's hard to picture a worse form of torture.
Today, we're going to teach you how to inflict that kind of torture on your readers.
Let's learn how to write this thing.
First, you want to choose your setting.
We say choose, but we don't actually mean it.
Because, as we all know, there's only one type of setting that can ever be used for a fantasy novel.
That's right. The generic, vaguely medieval setting you've come to know and love.
We say vaguely medieval setting because you don't actually want to set it in the Middle Ages.
Yeah, in the actual medieval ages, most people were serfs. Traveling long distances without supplies was hard. The countryside looked more like the farmland than like New Zealand. Thanks, Peter Jackson, was what I like to call him, Pete Jack. And people didn't use modern lingo and cliches.
Sounds pretty boring to me. And to even know everything Daniel just said, you need to do research.
Which no one wants to do.
No.
I mean, that's why you write a fantasy novel in the first place, right? You just want to make stuff up.
Thankfully, it's very easy to write a vaguely medieval society.
All you need to do is throw a castle and some knights into the story.
I mean, you can do a little more than that.
No, you can't, because this is how to write the worst fantasy novel ever.
Okay, yeah, but it still counts as vaguely medieval if you throw in a couple archaic words, allude to how bad of an existence the peasants have, and, dress some people in robes or vaguely medieval stuff like that. Just as long as the medieval elements remain window dressing.
Fine, sure, whatever makes you happy. You just don't need to make it fleshed out, okay?
Yeah.
Don't make it a fleshed out, realistic society. That's the last thing you want.
Once you have the setting nailed down, it's time to handle the other world building elements. Start with the geography.
Basically, all you need to do is rearrange Europe.
Throw some mountains down here, deserts there, oceans there.
Randomly drawn fantasy maps without any regard to how geography and tectonic plates actually work is the only reliable way to world build.
Once you have your map, the next step is to populate it.
3 words. Humans, elves, dwarves.
And no other races.
Except for maybe the odd goblin or orc that shows up.
Just make sure that those goblins and orcs are always evil.
Yeah, races should be stereotyped in the fantasy world, just like they are in the real world.
After your races are developed, you just want to throw some magic in there.
You honestly don't need to do anything with it.
Yeah, creating interesting, consistent magic systems, way too much work, right?
And magic is almost always used as a deus ex machina anyways.
Right. The less you explain it, the more you'll be able to use it to solve your plot holes.
But we've already spent too much time on world building. You should never spend more than 2 minutes on it.
You're right. Let's get on to the story.
And just like world building, you don't want to spend more than 2 minutes on it.
The best thing is, you don't have to. Unlike other genres where you need to create your own plot, fantasy novels come with a pre-written plot. A young man of prophecy loses his parents, sets off on a journey with the mentor, loses the mentor, kills the overlord, and wins the princess.
I love winning my princesses. That's an A+ plot right there, and you don't even have to do any work for it.
Now, some of you will tell us that you've already read that story before.
But that's why you want to use it again.
Readers don't want something new. They want the same bland story served to them time and time again.
It's the same reason why people watch our videos and eat at Mickey D's. Let me tell you something, viewers. There's nothing better than spending $1 and getting bottomless sweet iced tea from McDonald's. It just sits in your stomach and makes you feel, man, this is the best day of my life. The only other time I feel that feeling is when I spend $15 at Taco Bell.
In addition to using a pre-written plot, make sure you use pre-written characters.
All those stereotype fantasy characters like the Overlord, the Chosen One, and the Nameless Henchman are ripe for the taking.
That's why we did a whole series on character archetypes and stereotypes.
So watch those again. Give us that ad revenue. Because there are just so many in the fantasy setting. Just make sure that you never develop them beyond their stereotype.
Readers love reading about characters they've already seen time and time again.
And they hate it when they have personality.
Or subvert cliches.
Now, some people may argue that the fantasy genre is all about imagination.
They'll argue that the reason people read the genre is because they want something different and unique. That's why they're set in different worlds according to these people.
But we all know that isn't the case.
People hate reading about the new fantastical things.
Especially fantasy readers.
So include none of it.
Follow these steps and you too can write the worst fantasy novel ever.
Unless someone's already written that worst fantasy novel.
Face it, some has already beaten you to it.
So follow these steps and you too can write the second worst fantasy novel ever.
Capifers, last time we talked about terrible action scenes. This time we talked about terrible fantasy novels. No, it's the worst, combining the two. Know why? Because you just have people using magic on either side. Nobody knows what's happening. It's the worst. Let me read you some. Josiah wrote his own fantasy book.
When I was 8, where'd you find that?
It was in your bookcase, okay? So here are the spells Josiah uses in his book. Trust me, he hasn't changed. Glossary of magic words. Betow. Trachania. Factual. Fira! Wonder what that stands for. Make a fire. Fire. Real original, Josiah. Okay, let's go on.
I was 8.
Lacton. Lift. Layman. More like Raymond. Because layman says cook as desired. You know what I like? Properly cooked ramen noodles.
It's called ramen noodles.
No, it's ramen. Comment below. Ramen or ramen?
It's ramen.
If you're wondering how Josiah was so original and came up with all these magical spells, Josiah has 7 younger brothers. So what he did is was listen to them babble, not me. I was older and used better words. I used the best words. And he
No
just
one used better words than you, am I right?
Nobody.
Seriously though, infant babble is like the best place to get either the magic spells or the languages of your books from. Listen to your younger siblings, guys.
Infant babble.